Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey there, it's your host, Debbie Potts, and I am happy to bring you my friend Jodi Cohen on the show today to talk about her new book that can really teach you a ton of information about how you can boost the brain. Jodi says her book is her life's work and ton of information in there to provide real solutions for people to improve their sleep, which we all need, calm stress, which we always all need, especially this past year, eliminate toxins, which we all need, reduce pain and inflammation, boost immune function, and increase productivity. So I think you need to look into this book. It's called Essential Oils to Boost the Brain and to Heal the Body. And Jodi is already a best-selling author of a previous book called Healing with Essential Oils. She's the founder of Vibrant Blue Oils, where she has combined her training and healing with aromatherapy to creating unique blends of organic and wild-crafted essential oils. I know Jodi from nutritional therapy as well as from the Seattle area, mutual friends, but she's got a ton of education. She's brilliant, always filled with just knowledge and great analogies. But she holds certification in nutritional therapy, functional neurology, herbalism, and aromatherapy. She works closely with doctors, naturopaths, chiropractors, health coaches, nutritionists, and other professionals to support more than 70,000 clients with brain-related challenges as anxiety, insomnia, and autoimmunity. For the past 10 years, she's lectured at wellness centers, conferences, corporations on brain health, essential oils, stress, and detoxification. Her company's website is vibrantblueoils.com. I'll put all the links in the show notes so you can look her up and learn more about the book and grab a free chapter. But she is an amazing researcher and writer, and you'll listen to her today, and we've done a few past podcasts together. You can go find in the archives on my website, debbiepotts.net. But she is so good at explaining things and creating these analogies like traffic jams on the highway and different things to understand how the vagal nerve work, heart rate variability, and how essential oils actually work. So it's a must-have book. I'll put the link so you can grab a free chapter, a bonus chapter on her website for our listeners. And she has a handout, which I give to all my clients, because I always find with health coaching clients, we need to improve our vagal tone, our heart rate variability. And she has a great handout on 25 proven vagus nerve stimulation techniques, plus specific recipes and strategies you can grab in this free chapter, bonus chapter I have the link for. So look down in the show notes and you'll be able to find them. And hopefully go grab her book while you're on the website. You can learn how to calm your anxiety, how to sleep better, how to just to feel better. And essential oil is a simple way to do it. Now, she owns an essential oil company, but she's not really talking about selling the products in the book. It's all giving you which blends work and how it works. But really, I found most of the book is talking about the vagal nerve and vagal nerve toxicity. And I found it interesting, learning about the steps to improving our brain, but, fueling our brain and how we can detoxify and open up our pathways, and just importance of the learning and understanding the why and what impacts our brain is so essential. But looking at her 5 steps, we'll dive into a little bit today. We just kind of start talking about different subjects, but really going over The 5 steps. Step 1 is shifting the nervous system into the parasympathetic gear. Step 2 is improving sleep, which I always seem to work first with clients on, and detoxifying the brain. Step 3 is fueling the brain with energy to heal. Step 4, reducing stress and improving mood and losing weight, everyone's favorite subject. Step 5 is modulating your immune system and calming inflammation. And I have so many clients coming to me with inflammation in their body that they might not even be aware about, but also inflammation on the brain. And first thing I always want to work with people is on their lifestyle habits, because you can take all the supplements you want, but if your body is not functioning at optimal level, starting with that gut-brain connection with the vagal nerve, we want to add in some lifestyle habits like humming and gargling and singing and doing all these different things Jodi talks about in her free chapter that's on the bottom underneath the video, or you can find this in the show notes for the podcast today. But I really love learning about how to shift into the parasympathetic nervous system and how the strength of the vagal nerve, that vagal tone, is so essential to help bring us that resiliency, because we are often so stuck over on the other side in sympathetic dominance, and we don't have that resiliency as we used to bounce back and forth between the two nervous systems. And Jodi talks in her book about vagus nerve dysfunction, and we talk a little bit about vagus nerve toxicity and how it can be an underlying root cause for many chronic diseases, including autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. That's why we call it POTS. Not me, POTS, but POTS. Depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, digestion disorders, SIBO, IBS, and also diabetes, heart disease, and even obesity. So really learning how to detox the vagal nerve and how we can improve the function of the vagus nerve, how much that can help our overall health, along with doing a protocol, as we talk in FDN about the Dress for Health Success protocol. We work on the diet, the sleep, for the rest, and we find the right amount of exercise for you, the Goldilocks effect for all of this, and stress reduction. And then there's some supplementation. But, I tell people all the time, supplements don't work if you're not changing your lifestyle habits, changing your approach to how you start the day, how you live your life all day long. And I've shared my story many times, living life as a race for years and trying all these different practitioners, all these different protocols. Nothing really worked until I changed my lifestyle. And nothing really worked as much as it did last year with changing my entire life by moving from Seattle to North San Diego and then working online. And all of us had our whole life changed with changing how we work and not traveling and staying home more often. And for months, our whole schedule shifted. So some of the wins for that past year for me was learning how to find happiness and improving my quality of life, completely changing my job and focusing on coaching people online and helping with my FDN practitioner work and nutritional therapy, as well as I'm working part-time for Ben Greenfield coaching clients, and looking at functional labs, and it's looking at the whole picture, assessing people's nutrition, lifestyle habits, genetics, but also their functional lab testing and revealing what's going on inside. But we always seem to need to come back to how you're eating, when you're eating, what, how, why, and slowing down and teaching some mindfulness instead of being so mindless and rushing, as Dr. Mindy says, rushing syndrome. And I think there's a lot to what Jodi and I talk about today about the vagus nerve. And I've done so many podcasts in the past 10 years about heart rate variability, and that's really the best way to measure how strong is your nervous system, how strong is your vagal nerve, looking at your LF and HF score, low and high frequencies, and looking at heart rate variability overall, what your normal is and what causes it to go down or up. and really learning how to optimize that, strengthen it. Because if you learn from Jodi in her book how important it is to have that vagal nerve working, and she talks about the first half of the book all about it. Also in her book, a lot of information on melatonin, which I've really been interested in and playing around with adding, 20, 40 grams of milligrams of melatonin at night, 2, 3 hours before bed, and then tracking my sleep on my Aura Ring and seeing how that impacts it, as well as doing detoxification using uh, liver sauce and the GI detox and other binders, but also using essential oils before bed. And all of this really helps improve immune system and everything I'm trying to work on. So N equals 1, and we're all, got our own areas of opportunity and imbalances, but hopefully you can listen and learn something new from the podcast today and get her book and learn really how you can optimize your health in a different way. Instead of getting 10 more supplements, let's work on how we live life and how we can slow down, breathe, push pause, and reset more often, and how essential oils can be a simple way to activate the systems that are stuck or turned off or toxic. Because a lot of those supplements, we don't always know if they reach where they're supposed to be. But if we can put a little parasympathetic oil behind your ear, that will help strengthen that vagal nerve and help you shift into the parasympathetic state more often, that's pretty easy. But also, some breathing, nasal breathing exercises, deep breaths in, exhaling out, and feeling that sense of calmness, just doing that before you eat. So I'll stop babbling and I'll bring on Jodi. Have fun. Let me know what you think.
Hey everyone, I'm trying to use different word than excited. I keep saying I'm so excited, but this is like I'm always excited to interview, especially friends that have written amazing books. Jodi Cohen's on the podcast again today. Talk about this. I just was telling her, beautiful book, essential oils to boost the brain and heal the body. And it's like thanks for doing this. This is how many years were you working on this research on essential oil?
It's funny, probably since I started the company in 2012, but it wrote itself very quickly because I had been doing the research for years and I had different blogs that I was just able to weave together.
Yeah. So it's kind of, what's your mission with those books? I know we've talked a little bit, but just the ability to boost the brain, heal the body. Why did you feel like you had to put this all together? Because there's such a need.
It's three things. It's that people don't realize, the brain is really neglected because it's really hard to access. Molecules need to be super small and fat soluble to cross the blood-brain barrier. That's why essential fatty acids work so well, because they can actually get into the brain. Oils have the same capability, and you can use them in very specific ways to really help calm inflammation and activate, kind of calm your stress response, support sleep. There are so many things that you can do that are really easy and accessible that people don't really know you can do. And so that was the goal, is just empowering people with really accessible strategies to kind of address the underlying imbalances in their system. And I know we both went through the Nutritional Therapy Association, and they've got their pillars and foundations. And as I started to practice with people, I started to notice different pillars and foundations. I started to notice that people, almost every single person who crossed my path, had one of three, if not all three things out of balance. They were kind of stuck in the stress state of the nervous system. They weren't sleeping well, meaning that they either were having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. And they weren't really able to, the toxins weren't all leaving the body. Either they were getting congested in the lymph, the liver, the gallbladder, getting reabsorbed in the gut, but somehow the garbage kept recirculating and making more work for the detox organs. And when those three things lend themselves especially well to essential oils. And so when you're able to kind of help your body shift into the calm, safety state of the parasympathetic nervous system, when you're able to fall asleep and sleep through the night, and when you're able to shepherd the toxins out of the body so it actually leaves the body, a lot of the other symptoms fall away. And the other two things that I noticed were people were lacking energy and their immune system was either overreacting or underreacting. So the goal was to kind of point out the big headline news that I'm seeing, help people understand why that's going on. Because I think once you understand what's happening, your compliance increases because you suddenly recognize like, oh, that I don't want that. I can take responsibility and accountability for that. I can help to shift that. And then just giving them easy tools, either recipes that they can make themselves if they already own essential oils, or, we offer all of them pre-made if they want to buy it, but just really giving them another tool that's pretty easy, pretty accessible. You can carry it in your purse, doesn't require invasive surgery, doesn't require radical lifestyle or dietary changes, just a little small tweak with a big impact.
And that's what I think is so like easy to do, and it's just so attractive to use essential oils, because I find as FDN practitioner and merging the nutritional therapy and lab testing together and creating a protocol, we work, on the nutrition and work on those foundations, nutritional therapy. But always it comes up, building their immune system and detoxification, and just everyone's got so much inflammation and stress is on all the time. So especially our past year, but all these external stressors, how so easy it is to just breathe in an essential oil. It's so fascinating how effective that is, because so many pills, I don't even know if they work, and no one wants to take like 20 different supplements a day. And I find just get essential oil, how much it will help supplement what you're already doing.
Well, and if you think about how things get into the system and into the brain, if you're ingesting something, it has to go through the whole digestive process, then be processed through the liver, then it finally gets into the bloodstream and it can circulate into the whole body. When you smell something, it literally goes directly to your brain immediately. Like smell is a big safety gauge. You smell food, you smell water, it keeps you alive. So it has kind of VIP access to a part of the brain called the amygdala. All the other senses are routed through the thalamus first. And what people don't realize, the reason cocaine is snorted through the nose is because it gets to you quickly. Like, method of assimilation is usually the fastest. That's why they do anesthesia that way. So people they really discount oils and even transdermal application. Most people know, oh yeah, hormonal creams. I put my progesterone cream or whatever on my arm. They don't realize that you can use stimulatory oils like an acupuncture point, a reflex point, and it triggers a response really quickly.
Well, I love that how you explain all that in the beginning of the book. It's just the science behind it is, you know about essential oils, and we always hear, put it behind your ear, the vagal tone, and help shift to parasympathetic. But to understand the why is what I really love the beginning of the book for. It's like, oh, really? I didn't even know that. So if you really like to geek out and understand how essential oils work, I think that's a great first part of the book, isn't the main part of it, but that's just to understand the whole process. And then we go into the 5 steps to helping heal your brain, calming anxiety, say sleep better, and reduce inflammation to regain control of your health is the subtitle. And I think that is just such a key thing. Everybody I work with is doing health coaching full time now. And I'm working for Ben Greenfield, and we do all the labs and just work on the whole person.
Ben Greenfield. Oh my God.
That podcast you did was so good. We listened to it on our car ride home from Santa Barbara the other month. I'm like, God, that was such good stuff.
He's such a crazy genius. He
is so smart.
Like Ben Greenfield, Tatis Karazian. I love the people that are actually in the field. Like he basically crash test dummies everything on himself, right? And then he's like, why does that work? Which is kind of the way I look at the world. Like I like it. I know I get a little nerdy with the science, but what I've noticed with people is that once they get it, even with kids, if you're like, okay, you play baseball, you want to be better, which means you need to like, your body needs to move faster, right? Well, guess what makes it move faster? Blood sugar and oxygen. So if we can increase the oxygen by making, oxygen travels through these tunnels, your veins. If we make them a little bigger, then the oxygen gets there faster and you're going to do better. And they're like, oh, like if you can spell out why it works and how it helps, people, compliance goes way up,
It does.
And it's kind of like, I know so many people that are like, oh, I spent thousands of dollars on supplements and I don't take them. Well, if you don't take them, it's not going to help you.
I
Like,
know. So many clients don't get better.
Oh, I know. The kale's just sitting in my fridge, but I don't eat it. Okay.
Yeah. You feel good because you bought it, but the next step is actually doing something with it and eating it. It's like the broccoli sprouts and growing them, but then now eat them.
I know. So I've noticed that when people understand how it helps them, they're more likely to comply with it and do it.
Yeah, I know. So there's so much to talk about, but I do want to talk about what I keep talking about in the show is just these internal stressors that we don't know about unless we do lab testing, and how the essential oils can help so much because, you know, you're talking about the gut brain connection, improving the vagal nerve, how it can be toxic. If we can talk about that, and then heavy metals, antibiotics, the virus, bacteria, mold. I mean, I think that's such a huge area to focus on, the biotoxins in just our environment, just how many people are struggling and they don't know why, but how this can be a simple way to help that process.
Well, you know, there are a lot of blind spots, right? Like one of the big blind spots is oral health. You know, a lot of people have amalgams and, you know, they don't even think like, oh gosh, they're off-gassing, you know, or we have cavitations, you know, root canals, or, you know, when they take out our wisdom teeth, sometimes they leave a little hole. And the mouth is actually kind of the hot bread for, you know, all of the toxicity. And the exit route of draining this toxin from the mouth is along your jawline. It's called your trigeminal nerve. So it's trying to kind of exit, and then it intersects with a bunch of other nerves. Your neck is the biggest bottleneck in the body, right? You know, ideally you're sleeping. When you sleep, your brain shrinks because it can be off duty and can have time to clean up. And your lymphatic system, in combination with your brain cells, your glial cells, it's called the lymphatic system. It like literally car washes the brain, right? Clears out all the metabolic waste. And then the exit route, like I lived in New York during garbage strikes. You put your garbage on the street and it stays there and it smells and it's gross, and, you know, but if your neck is congested, you know, if you're sitting in the airplanes in the middle row between two linebackers, there's congestion. You can't put your arm on the armrest because there's no space, right? If your lymph has too much going on and, you know, the neck is out of alignment and the muscles are tight and maybe the veins are constricted, it's like going nowhere. And so those toxins sit. And the toxins that are trying to drain down the lymph from the trigeminal nerve also sit. And nerves have a really high affinity for toxins. So it kind of sits too long, it gets uptaken by the nerve, and then it causes this minor infection that you might not even know is there. There's a Tufts neuroscientist named Michael Van Eckler, who calls it vagus nerve infection hypothesis. And it kind of, you know, if you think of it, your vagus nerve is the information highway between your brain and your body and brain. So there's this minor infection in the main highway, and it's sending a sickness signal to the entire body. So you go into sickness response, you have fatigue, you have pain so that you don't move, you know, you might be sensitive to other chemicals. It's really trying to kind of isolate you so it can heal and complete that cycle. But if it's a chronic underlying issue, especially in the vagus nerve, you never heal, you never complete the cycle. And what's interesting is a lot of the practitioners I was working with, they were noticing this, you know, their muscle testing. They're like, everyone seems to have this vagus nerve toxicity, vagus nerve infection. So again, one of these underlying issues that no one's talking about. Well, how do you clear that out? There's a researcher that I mentioned in the book, Marco Ruggiero, and he was actually taking pictures, sonograms of the neck, looking at the lymph tissue, totally congested, pressing on the vagus nerve, causing all these problems. And he played with a lot of solutions. And it was actually topically applied essential oils that helped to kind of shrink down. You know, if you think of what oils do in plants, they help to move fluid. You know, the water is in the ground and the roots, and somehow the fluid gets to the leaves and they're beautiful and they have flowers, a fruit. You know, it helps with movement of fluid. So it helps with the drainage down the neck. So all of a sudden the lymph is flowing. It's not compressed. It's not congested. The vagus nerve can kind of clear up toxicity. The blend that I like to use to apply on the vagus nerve is a blend of clove and lime. Clove is very stimulatory and also is very high in this chemical constituent eugenol, which helps to kind of clear up toxicity. You know, clove is used in dentistry for a reason. And lime just happens to be a great carrier oil because it has small molecules and helps to get the remedy into the skin very quickly. So it acts like an acupuncture needle.
Is that your parasympathetic blend that you sell?
Yeah.
Yeah. I bought it for my family all for Christmas. Like, everyone needs one of these.
Oh, I love that. It smells kind of Christmassy. It has kind of that, clovey winter
Yeah.
smell.
But I think, what we've been doing, my husband and I, it's like our entertainment little routine at nighttime. Part of our sleep hygiene routine is smelling the oil and then using like the hypothalamus. And I need to get the circadian rhythm and the parasympathetic. And it's really fun to add this because we have aura rings and to see how our sleep is improved. So it's so fun kind of biohacking, so to speak, your sleep, because I'm all about optimizing the sleep. Especially since when you have adrenal exhaustion, fatigue stuff going on, you have trouble sleeping. So I have priority number one is always get a good sleep, because that was such a terrible time in my life when you've had it probably too, that you wake up at 2 a.m. and you just are wide awake. And so I think all these different essential oils, how to stimulate, get that sleep cycle. But that's a big part of what we're talking about, is that detoxification and making sure all those pathways are clear. And I love always your analogies of, clearing the highways and getting rid of that congestion, that traffic jam, and make everything work. Because detoxification pathways is the other part of it, is to have all those systems working and how the oils can help.
Yeah. I think oil's biggest, they move stagnation, right? Like the body has physical, mental, and emotional stagnation. And it is like a traffic jam, like I live in Seattle and my daughter's racing a lot in Portland. The biggest bottlenecks are Tacoma and Olympia because there's just so much congestion and traffic. And sometimes, that one exit that gets congested, it can back up for miles, The trip to Portland, it should take 2.5 hours, but sometimes it takes 4.
I know.
Traffic backs you up. So it's that congestion. And if you time it right, when there's not congestion, or you can somehow clean that up, everything goes faster, gets to its destination faster. And so that's really the goal of essential oils, is to kind of help even emotional stagnation, help you just move through things and process through, so that, the good things get in and the bad things get out.
So with going back to the mold and the parasites, and is using, just getting this, the vagal nerve to stimulate the vagal nerve and improve that pathway that you're saying, that helps? Or what other oils would help, supporting the liver and the adrenals? And do we have to do the whole thing?
It kind of depends on what's going on with you, and it's not one size fits all, but I think parasympathetic. So, what most people don't realize is the operating system for your body is your autonomic nervous system. It controls all of your automatic functions, your breathing, your heart rate, your digestion, your detoxification. And just like your car, you have kind of an accelerator. You're feeling like there's danger. That's the sympathetic branch of your nervous system, and resources are allocated towards survival. And anything that's not critical towards immediate survival is kind of down-regulated, right? So digestion, detoxification, the ability to anti-inflame, turning on your immune system, not the priority. So not given the blood flow and the energy. And then when the danger passes, your body shifts back into parasympathetic and kind of takes care of maintenance and upkeep. But what happens is, I don't see very many tigers running down the street in Seattle, but I do see a lot of people reacting to the news, or their financial situation, or relationship concerns, or financial concerns, all of these things, health concerns. Anticipatory stress, thought-driven stress, kind of shifts us into I'm not safe just as much as the physical lion chasing you. And so what happens is we get a little stuck in that gear and we can't get out of it. And people say, oh, you're stressed. And you're like, but I have a job and a spouse and children and friends, and I need to, keep the plates all spinning. Like I can't drop anything. And that's true. It's not that you need to change your circumstances. You just need to change your response. Oftentimes driving is an example. You're driving in traffic and someone cuts you off, and sometimes you don't care, whatever. You're not in a hurry. You're having a good day. It doesn't matter. Maybe they're in a hurry. I hope they get there safely. It doesn't faze you in the slightest. Another day, someone cuts you off, same exact situation, and 4-letter words are flying out of the mouth. The only variable in that moment is you and how you respond. And so being able to literally, like you would shift a bike, manually shift from I am in danger, I'm going to overreact to everything, I'm going to yell at my husband over something stupid that I'm going to regret later, to wow, I'm kind of feeling annoyed right now, but yelling at my husband's probably not going to be the best solution. So I'm just going to kind of take in my situation, assess my options, and make the best choice I can, and kind of feel good about it. Like, look at that, I didn't overreact. Like nothing got blown up today. No blood, no fire, you know?
Yeah. But that's, what we find as health and fitness coaches, that people come to us that they're struggling, they're trying to exercise to get healthy. And they're really, I find people, as I strive to teach people to be fit and healthy from the inside out. So even though you're working out, you're doing your strength training, doing your HIIT training, you're going for walks, getting sunlight exposure, doing all those things that you think are the right things to do, but you still can't get the desired result. So I think a lot of those people that are struggling, trying to lose weight, feel their best, look their best, and just live their best life. There's always important to kind of look a little deeper under the hood, but also figuring out the why. And I think it's how we're living life as a race, and just be that, addicted to busyness. And what is that Dr. Mindy says, the rushing woman, and how we're just in overdrive all the time, and how that trickle down effect, keep doing that leads to all this internal stressors. Who knows what comes first, but they all connect and twine together, that it's so, I think, essential to learn the information that's in your book, how you can understand the why, and how your gut and your brain's connected to having that anxiety, to not being able to sleep, to not feeling recovered from a workout. That I think it's why we look at kind of what I say, the holistic method, but you have to look at the whole person, and kind of talk about how this book helps people kind of get started and figure out, the why, and understanding those 5 steps.
Yeah. And I think it really comes down to the 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah.
It's only really 20% of your effort that gives you 80% of your results. And so what I was really trying to do is look at, people would come to me with all of these files, and, I have this SNP and this disease, and I'm super complicated and no one can help me. And I would say, okay, maybe, we don't know yet, but how's your sleep? Are you sleeping?
Yeah.
Nope, not falling asleep, not staying asleep. Okay. How's your stress level? Like, what do you feel like during the day? What, as you're doing these exercises, are you in yoga like, I love this? Or are you thinking about your checklist? Like, after this, I have to go to the supermarket, then I have to do this, then I have to do this. And it really, every single time, it came down to these 3 things. They were either not sleeping, they were stuck in stress, or their drainage pathways. Like, it was pretty clear that part of their detoxification was not working as well as it could. And as much as I love nutrition and think food is really important, I don't think that food helps with sleep, stress, and detox. I mean, some foods can help with detox. It can certainly help with the liver support, but lymph, I feel like I was seeing this 80-20 rule, like 80%, 100% of the people seemed to get better when they did these 3 things: when they focused on their sleep, when they intentionally shifted their body into the parasympathetic state, when they supported, for most people, it's lymph seems to be, lymph doesn't have its own pump, and lymph responds really well to oils, and especially lymph gets really bottlenecked on the neck. It drains 75% on the left side, so left clavicle, and kind of left side of the body. So when you just pause and really focus on, like, eat, sleep, move, if you eat in the parasympathetic state, if you move your body, you move your lymph. If you add oil, it moves it better. And if you're sleeping well, like that, all of a sudden these symptoms are dropping off their radar. Their skin isn't as itchy. They remember the word they were trying to say as opposed to losing it. Their knee doesn't bug them as much. They don't feel as anxious during the day. Like, they see really immediate results. And yeah, if you're celiac and you're continuing to eat pizza, that's probably a problem. But, once you have that energy and you're seeing these results, then it's easier to fine tune, like, oh, okay, I can start adding flaxseed to my diet every day. Oh, okay, I'll have lemon juice first thing in the morning. It just gives them kind of those low hanging fruit, easy wins. and make them have more energy to take on more.
And I think that's when people are trying to get better and figure out a plan that's sustainable so they can follow something for 90 days or however long and restore their health, is we have to make it simple. And I think it's so easy to give, okay, you need to do these 20 different things and you need to take these 20, 30 different supplements. And I think what you're talking about makes it simple, and people will keep doing it and build that habit of just, all I have to do is smell an oil. It's like, oh my gosh, it's just
focusing on eat, sleeping, and moving. I got this, Yeah. And then you can always layer on more. There's a reason with kids
start simple.
They start with simple addition, right? What's 1 + 1? We're not doing algebra right now. We're just focusing on that.
Yeah.
Once you kind of nail that and gain confidence, then you can move on.
Yeah, I think just that's what I've been, even just on Instagram lately, I started sharing some of my meals. I'm like, it's not complicated. Here's some asparagus and here's a side of steak and barbecue, burger patties or whatever it is. And people are like, I'm like, yeah, it's not complicated, but it's the same thing of just eat, sleep, move outside and get that sun exposure. I think just, keep it simple. It's not so complicated to be healthy. And I think we need that right now in our world. It's like how to get healthy and improve our immune system. We've been talking about all year and more, but how simple things like this can help us just get healthy, but how we just need a little reset and a reboot often, and how simple we can do it by just using some oils instead. And sometimes that might work on top of everything else.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because I get a lot of people that are like, I need everything. I want to buy everything. And I'm like, no, like we just actually started a quiz. Like, I think it's much better. Like start with one oil, start with parasympathetic, maybe a kit of 3, like start small. And then you can always add more. It's like, I want short hair. No, let's start with an inch. Let's see what you think, because you can't unscramble an egg. So let's always kind of like start with the basics and we can add more from there. But people are really surprised. Like, oh, wow. Who knew that, now I have regular bowel movements. God, now I feel less anxious, it seems to, like, people wear their Oura rings. Oh, my heart rate variability is better. Like, you don't need to, it doesn't need to be hard.
Yeah. So let's kind of go over those 5 steps. We just have the last little bit, just kind of summary how you broke those up. I know we're running out of time.
And I tried to prioritize, like step 1 is really just shifting your nervous system into a relaxation state, because then that turns on everything. It turns on digestion. Blood flow is routed to the arms and legs when you're in stress and away from digestion and detoxification. So it's kind of like trying to read in the dark, like not as efficient. And then the second step is sleep, really helping people to fall asleep and stay asleep. The third step is kind of detoxification and drainage. So not just mobilizing toxins like, yay, it's a party, we're yelling fire in the movie theater, but actually making sure that they're shepherded out of the body and kind of walking people through what that entails. And then energy, our stress response, there's another part of our brain, our endocrine system, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, that gets turned on when we're in stress. And when we're in stress, we sometimes, the other endocrine organs like the thyroid get less attention and can start to have problems. So helping people to balance that. You mentioned the hypothalamus blend, which you can apply right here and kind of reboot your endocrine system. And then just immune modulation, helping your immune system, it Goldilocks it, right? It's not overreacting, it's not underreacting, it's reacting in just the right way. And it's the immune system reacting to pathogens or toxins that trigger inflammation. So if you can calm the immune system, you can calm inflammation.
And that's a big thing, is inflammation, especially when I look at people's labs, and even just look at our nutritional therapy assessment I give people too, is just most people are struggling with digestion and inflammation and gut distress. And as simple as you said in the beginning, going back to just stimulating the parasympathetic nerve, and also how we eat, I would say, is so essential, taking time to pause and reset and breathe and get into that rest and digest nervous system. But how's our gut brain connected to that inflammation in our body? People, like athletes are listening, that are slow to respond recover from workouts, and how it's so connected. It's just crazy when you read the research.
So digestion begins in the brain. The vagus nerve sends a signal to your mouth to release saliva. Saliva is the first step in breaking down proteins. Proteins are then broken down in the gut when the gut releases hydrochloric acid. And protein breakdown is really important for digestion and inflammation, because if they're not properly broken down, meaning that if you're not in the parasympathetic state and the saliva and the hydrochloric acid are not released, then those proteins stimulate an immune response. The immune system thinks that they're pathogens, and the immune system responds, and then it starts creating inflammation. Inflammation is part of what the immune system does to kind of isolate and swell and bring more blood flow to the area. So if you can just, even if, use oils, do deep breathing, say a little prayer, feel grateful, anything you can do to let your body know we are eating, we are routing our blood flow to our organs of digestion, we are making sure that this food is properly digested, absorbed, and assimilated. That's one less potential threat that the immune system needs to look at, and then that doesn't trigger inflammation.
That, I find too, people's digestion, going to the protein digestion, how that's related to what does protein break down to, amino acids, and how that's going to impact our neurotransmitters, and just how impact that is on the brain, and just how this whole chain of events happens.
Yeah, we are a domino cascade. We are not living in isolation. But that's one thing that I really like about plants, because they're very gentle. Plants are what they call adaptogenic, which means that they meet you where you're at. So for example, if you're, low in estrogen, they help give you more estrogen. If you're high, they bring it down. They just kind of modulate and meet you where you're at. And so it's very hard to have a reaction to plants, because they really are just, they're part of nature. Nature is in balance, and they're trying to return you to balance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then just how the chronic inflammation in our gut, inflammation, leaky gut, and how that impacts our brain health. And, we're going to run out of time, but a whole show to talk about melatonin, I think, is fascinating. Melatonin in the gut and the brain, just when I do Dutch tests on people, some people are so high in melatonin, and we find this neuroprotective because they have mold toxicity on the oats test. And it's like, oh my gosh, how amazing is the body to protect us?
Melatonin does more than just support restful sleep. But your question, so the vagus nerve is the information highway between the brain and the gut, and the gut and the brain. It's what's telling the brain, oh, there's inflammation, release neurotransmitters like acetylcholine to calm the inflammation. So the more we can kind of help support healthy vagus nerve signaling, the more we can make sure that inflammation remains in check, because the brain is kind of helping the gut send the right neurotransmitters, hormones, whatnot, to kind of calm the inflammation and settle it down. So that's, and inflammation in the gut can affect the brain, and vice versa. So that's another thing. Most of us are pretty good with our diet. Maybe we're taking probiotics or other supplements that can help with gut health. But the more you can combine that, layer that with kind of stimulating the vagus nerve, so that it's kind of hitting the problem from both sides. Like if someone comes to you and says, I want to lose weight, I'm thinking I'm either going to change my diet or exercise. You're probably going to say do both, right? The more you can the more positive choices you can layer on, the faster you're going to get the results you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think just how we can measure our heart rate variability is a good way to see if we are improving, or just do you do any tracking to see, okay, am I actually, is what I'm doing helping? I feel better, but some people like to see data, and to strengthen the vagal tone, do we look at HRV?
Yeah. So heart rate variability, which is kind of the difference in your heart rate between your inhale and your exhale. If you ever go to the doctor and, they're measuring your heart rate and they're like, okay, inhale, now exhale, they want to see a difference between those. The exhale is really what's important. That slows your heart rate down. And what that variability is a measure of how quickly you recover, how resilient you are, how able you are to bounce back. And so there are devices like Oura rings that can kind of measure your heart rate, but parasympathetic tone, the more you can kind of calm your nervous system and access your parasympathetic branch of your nervous system, that correlates with improved heart rate variability.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I like using, it's more work, but putting the chest heart rate strap on and doing like a 5-minute with Sweet Beat Life I used to do with from HRV, and then look at, the Oura Ring does it overnight, so you kind of see, but it's nice to look at the LF, the low frequency and the high frequency, and see your variability. But, getting an app of some heart rate variability app to really kind of look at the breakdown of it, it's kind of fun to do.
Yeah, and if you just want to, an easy way to do that too is to kind of assess your anxiety or your worry or your ability to problem solve. Scale of 1 to 10, how anxious am I right now? And then to do something like box breathing, where you inhale for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, exhale for a count of 8. The exhale is always longer, and do that for 4 or 5 cycles, and just see, how do I feel now? And your own gauge and measure.
Yeah, I like doing that at nighttime when I'm falling asleep, or when I can't fall asleep and shut mind off. I always think of Ernie and Bert on Sesame Street. I start counting sheep or ducks, and I was like, okay, now I'm counting. Inhale. See, Ernie and Bert, we can learn something from Sesame Street.
I know.
So I know we're gonna get out of time because we're short today, but the book itself, the last part, kind of tells you different blends. So if they want to make their own, because I know some people are into, buying their own, the Young Living or all that. They have the options.
Their own in the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
My whole goal is to meet people where they're at.
I love that.
One of my NTA friends was working with a truck driver, and she's like, okay, so when you're going, at the truck stop on the road, jump by the Doritos, buy a hard-boiled egg or an apple,
Yeah.
So if you have oils, if you love oils, if you just want new recipes, I give you all the recipes. If you're like, I'd rather you do it for me, I have formulas at Vibrant Blue Oils. So it's really just designed like, happy to meet you where you're at.
Yeah, I like that, because some people, I have friends, I'm like, you have to get this book. She's like, well, I'm been using for 10 years the, Vibrant Blue, the whatever the other ones are. And
there are a lot of great companies that people love. And if you if it's working, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Like, keep using that. And I just give you new recipes.
Well, yeah, so good. And there's tons of information for everyone, some good takeaways, but it's just, again, such a beautiful book. And I don't know, I was looking at the book publisher. I mean, it's like something you just want to keep to look up. So you might not read it all at once, but
The funniest is it was, obviously book publishing takes a long time. So this process started pre-COVID. So the plan was for this to be like a gift book, like in the spa and stuff like that. So it is, it's very pretty. That's why. Yeah.
Oh, so good. So
people wouldn't be leaving their house.
We'll put all the links in the show notes, but where is the best place for people to go buy it?
Anywhere books are sold. Actually, if they want to go to they can go to boostthebrainbook.com/gift and grab a free chapter on 25 ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. And then it will link to, there's Target, there's Barnes & Noble, there's Amazon, there's your local bookseller. So whatever makes you happy.
Books in Barnes & Noble. I always forget books in a store. That's what a novel idea. Let's support the bookstores and buy it there.
Yeah, exactly.
But Ontario Balls did the formative, so that's pretty special.
She loves Dr. Balls. She's been using oils actually longer than I have. Yeah.
Wow.
And she really talks about, she's really interesting because she focuses on the flavonoids, the secondary metabolites of plants, and has her part of her protocol is 200 different plants a year, but she counts oils and teas.
That'd be easier.
So that definitely makes it easier. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today and give us a little quick overview of the book. And I hope everyone goes find it and get some information on the website too. We'll put those links in the show notes so you guys can grab them and then go learn how to improve your immune system and your mood and your blood sugar. And there's all sorts of stuff I got all tabbed in here. So enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you, I'm sure, some other time.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.